I don't like staying home alone. Never have. Even at 24, something about the silence of an empty house just doesn't sit right with me. But that night, I didn't have much of a choice. My roommate was out of town, and I'd taken a few days off work to catch up on some writing and enjoy the rare peace. Or at least, that was the plan. It started around 11 p.m. I had just finished brushing my teeth and was heading back to the living room when I heard it. This faint, metallic clink, like something tapping on the glass. I froze. We live on the ground floor, and the living room has a big sliding door that leads to the backyard. My first thought was raccoons, maybe a branch. I turned off the lights and walked slowly toward the curtains, careful not to make a sound. I peeked through a small gap. There was a man standing at the glass door. At first, I didn't fully process what I was looking at. My brain tried to explain it away. Maybe it was my own reflection, or a neighbor walking past. But then he moved, just slightly. A small shift of weight from one foot to the other. That's when my heart dropped into my stomach. He was facing the sliding door directly, standing maybe 3 feet away from it. His face was tilted down, partly hidden by a dark hoodie pulled low over his head. The porch light wasn't on, and the only thing illuminating him was the dull glow from the streetlights filtering through the yard. I couldn't see his eyes, just the outline of his head and shoulders, and the fact that he was motionless. Too motionless. He wasn't doing anything. Not knocking, not jiggling the handle, not even pretending to have a reason to be there. He just stood there, like he was waiting for something. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. I felt like an animal who had just spotted a predator and knew that making any noise might trigger it. I slowly backed away from the curtain, keeping my eyes locked on the vague silhouette in the dark. My mind was racing. Should I shout? Should I turn on the light? Should I call someone? That last one snapped me into action. I reached for my phone on the coffee table just behind me. It wasn't there. I whispered a curse under my breath and remembered I'd left it in the bedroom. My stomach twisted as I realized I'd have to walk past the hallway window to get there, another exposed view of the backyard. I ducked low and moved fast, like some kid playing hide and seek. It was ridiculous, but fear doesn't care about logic. Before I made it to my room, I turned back once, just to see if he was still there. He was, but this time, he had moved closer. He was now directly up against the glass, forehead almost touching it, still not moving, still not knocking, just watching. I ran to my bedroom, locked the door, and plugged the phone in. While it powered on, I crouched in the corner, heart pounding so loud, I was sure he'd hear it from outside. After what felt like forever, I finally got enough charge to call 911. I whispered everything, trying to keep my voice steady. By the time the cops arrived, about 10 minutes after I made the call, the man was gone. They moved quickly, one checking the front, the other sweeping the backyard with a flashlight. I hovered near the kitchen, trying to stay out of the way but listening closely. No footprints, no damage, nothing out of place. When they came back in, one of them asked a few basic questions. Had I seen his face? Did he try to open the door? Did I recognize him? I answered everything honestly. No, no, and no. They didn't seem dismissive exactly, but I could tell they weren't too concerned. Could have been a drunk, one of them offered, or just someone messing around. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to argue, but deep down, I knew it wasn't that. Drunks don't just stand and watch. One of the officers then asked if I had definitely locked the sliding door before bed. I was sure I had, but something in his voice made me second guess. We walked over together so I could show him. That's when I noticed something was wrong. The lock was slid into place, but it hadn't clicked. You know that sound a sliding door lock makes when it fully engages? That solid, unmistakable click? It wasn't there. It looked locked, but it wasn't. It had been carefully moved just far enough to look secure without actually locking. Someone had been inside before, maybe even earlier that day. The officer must have noticed my face go pale because he asked if I was okay. I told him I was fine, lied straight to his face. But that night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my room, every light in the house on, door locked, kitchen knife in hand, wondering how close I'd really come, and who else might have been watching from the shadows. I always liked being alone, or at least I used to. I work remotely, so being home during the day is normal, quiet, predictable. But what happened last fall changed the way I see this house, and being alone forever. It started on a Thursday afternoon. I was sitting at my desk in the spare room, answering emails with some mindless playlist running in the background. Around 2:30 p.m., I heard the doorbell. Not a knock, the actual ring. That was already weird, because we live at the end of a long, dead-end street, and we don't get deliveries through the front. We have a parcel box at the gate. I peeked through the upstairs window, parting the blinds just enough to see the front porch. There was no delivery van, no mail truck. Just a man standing completely still at my front door. He wore a dark, slightly oversized jacket and had his hands tucked deep into the pockets. His shoulders hunched as if it were colder than it actually was. His head was angled down slightly, not in a way that looked natural, more like he was thinking or listening. He wasn't carrying anything, no clipboard, no phone, no box, and that was what unsettled me the most. If you're lost, you knock. If you're delivering something, you ring and leave. But this guy, he rang once and just stood there. He didn't shift his weight, didn't check his phone, didn't glance up at the security camera right above him, like most people do when they notice it. It was like he didn't even care he was being watched, or worse, like he already knew he was. Something about him felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it. He wasn't threatening exactly, but there was a slowness to him that made my skin crawl. Like he had all the time in the world. I didn't go downstairs. I didn't move. I just stayed there, frozen behind the blinds, watching him in silence. He stood there for what felt like forever. In reality, maybe a minute. And then, without doing anything else, he turned and started walking back down the front path. No hesitation, no frustration, just a calm, deliberate stroll. Like he wasn't leaving empty-handed at all. And then I noticed something that made my breath catch. He didn't go through the gate. He just vanished out of frame. I waited for the gate to open. It didn't. That's when the unease really kicked in. The only way out was through that locked gate, and I hadn't heard it buzz or unlatch. I checked the security app. The feed had frozen. No live footage, just static. No Wi-Fi problems. Everything else was working. Just the cameras. At that point, I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe a system glitch. Maybe a lost delivery guy who got spooked by my silence. I went back to my desk, trying to push it all out of my head. Told myself he was just at the wrong house. Maybe a confused delivery guy who forgot the package. Maybe nothing at all. I reopened my inbox and stared blankly at an unread email for a few seconds, trying to force myself to focus. But the calm never came. That's when I heard it. A faint, metallic clink, not from the front anymore, but behind me. The sound of a door handle twitching, slow, deliberate, like someone was testing it, gently, not turning it hard, not shaking it, just checking, seeing if it would open. Every muscle in my body locked up. That door led directly into the kitchen. just a sliding glass door that opened to the backyard. No gate, no motion light, not even a privacy fence. Just open grass, shadows, and that one piece of thin glass between me and whatever was on the other side. I stood up without thinking. My chair rolled back slightly, the noise seeming 10 times louder in the stillness. I didn't dare look at the door right away. I didn't want to see a face. I didn't want to not see one either. The silence after that tiny sound was unbearable. Nothing moved, nothing creaked, but the dread in my gut was real, heavy and sharp. I reached for the heaviest thing within arm's reach, my old, thick laptop. It weighed almost 5 pounds and was mostly metal. Not much, but it felt better than nothing. I wrapped my fingers tightly around it and stepped carefully into the hallway. Every floorboard felt louder than it should. I held my breath as I moved closer to the kitchen, my socks sliding silently over the wood. When I got to the edge of the hallway, I stopped. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I tightened my grip on the laptop and peeked slowly, carefully, around the corner, toward the kitchen and that back door. And that's when I saw the silhouette. Not a full figure, just enough. The barest shape of a shoulder. A shadow that didn't belong to anything inside the house. Someone was standing just outside the door, still, waiting. The handle moved again. Then I heard it. A voice from just outside the door. It was calm, low.
"You locked it this time, huh?"
Just once, and then silence.